they do this every time when I write books. They take information prior, and they always break their computers. And then I get to get the computers fixed, and then I write. But I wrote these things way ahead in these ideas. My name is Lisa Richard, and this is a book I'm working on. But this is a different solution. My books are solutions, and I believe that we need to protect our Judeo-Christian nations and go directly back to all our Judeo-Christian traditions. But we need to consider the immigrants, and I have solutions. And one of the solutions is to give them their land back, to bring businesses together with their motherlands and the motherland and the land that they're visiting, for example, the United States or Italy or Germany or Sweden or Belgium or Australia or Canada, and build businesses so that these people, the immigrants, could go back to their land and build businesses in their land or even in the land that they're visiting, but all legal. And they need to respect the land that they're living in, because many of these lands, these immigrants have built these lands, but the immigrants are used as a political tool. And all their lands have money. All their lands have commodities. It just has to be excavated. So let's go and discuss this very serious thing. And I'll show you in my book what I've been writing prior, because you know how it is now. They have all the computer systems, and they look at all your documents, and then they use it. And I would want to know if you could give me a donation or do a review on my book. But we need to fix the problem and help the immigrants, because they have given their heart, soul, and hard work to come over to these lands, and they use them for work. But on the other hand, they use them also for a political tool. So let's go right here and right away, because this is a very, very serious thing that we need to realize what they have done, and how the immigrants also they're trying to survive, so they do it this way, which is incorrect.
The Trump administration just dropped a massive financial hammer on illegal aliens living inside of our country. A new executive action under review of the Treasury Department would force every bank in America to verify citizenship before you can hold an account. And millions of people here illegally who have been depositing paychecks and wiring billions of dollars.
That's what I said years and years ago, to check the monies, because remember, I lived in California, and I was the first presidential advisor, and I told them to check monies, every offices, and also to check and assess all the immigrants themselves when they were trying to open up the borders and why the geopolitical problems. And but their countries have money. Their countries have money. They just need to do business together and excavate their land. And we cannot drop this. We need to make a solution. We need to make a solution.
Large overseas could lose access overnight.
And they give money. They send their monies overseas. But overseas, there's a lot of money overseas. But these leaders, they live that own these overseas countries. They live in injustice, in deep atrocity. They use the land for their own mankind evil. They don't disperse the GDP properly, and they don't give land to their people. It's a caste system, because they are non-Christian. Many of these places where they come from, 86% refugees come from Muslim countries, and there's 57 countries. Are you with me? 57 countries that are Muslim, and they take advantage of these Muslim people, these refugees. They're rich countries. We need to have international law, otherwise you're always going to have these problems in every country, in Europe and America. But we're solving the problem. Let's go.
And with this, let's see, the just reported about this, because even they cannot spin it. The remittance pipeline that sends over $200 billion.
It's $200 billion. Now wipe that out.
Out of our
$200 billion that America sends in the European countries, and they have money, brothers and sisters. They take advantage of these beautiful immigrants. That's why the immigrants rush over to America. That's one of the reasons why. They also want to try to take down Judeo-Christian nations, and they rush to all these European countries, and we take care of them. But it needs to be corrected. Otherwise, you'll have a see end to them. That is their land. There needs to be new international law and sanctions on these 57 countries. First I thought it was 52 Muslim countries, then 53, then it says 57 countries. Those monies, they're holding all the money and not giving it to the immigrants. That's the problem. Otherwise they would stay there. But these countries, I believe, need to evolve. And how are we going to do that? Bring good business people that are conservative and honest and build businesses in their own place. And I have a plan.
Every single year is about to get shut down. We're good. Let's get into it. My name is Tom. I'm with the Beltway. I'm also a White House correspondent.
See, he's a White House correspondent, Bob. But I wrote this before. I'll show you it in my texts. I've been doing this work for years. Before President Trump caught it, and I asked President Trump to get in, and they use all my ideas. I'm a volunteer. So I'm ready to be directly hired, and if you could do donation, and we'll help sit at the table and make new laws to help these immigrants so they can own a piece of their birthright, their land, and also to give them legal rights to work in these European countries, the ones that want to respect. Let's go.
Don't forget, we're growing the channel every week. Share, sub, and everything you guys can do. It helps a lot. But CNN is now discussing the possibility of expanded banking compliance rules tied to immigration enforcement. Check this out.
Well, Omar, this does appear to be part of the Trump administration's aggressive immigration crackdown. Sources tell CNN Priscilla Alvarez and I that the administration is considering new action that would require banks to check the citizenship status of their customers.
Because I asked for them to assess all the immigrants, because many are used as a political tool, military tool. That's what I asked years ago for all states to be corrected and checked, because there was many crimes, and it's across the whole nation of America. And that's why they're doing it this way too. They're looking at the immigrants' bank accounts. And it has to be done because the immigrants are being used as a military tool and also a tool for their leaders in their country that's supposed to be taking care of them, and that's their birthright, their land. Let's go.
Now, this would be something that would actually apply not just on a go-forward basis, but also to existing customers, which is pretty stunning when you think about just how many customers the banks already have. This action could also require banks to check different category of documents than what they normally look at, including passports. Now, I do want to stress that nothing here has been announced.
This is it. This is the very serious thing that needs to be done. We need to wipe this out. To wipe this out, and we would say, let's come together and make a clear slate. Let's make a clear slate and protect these immigrants by working together with their countries to give them their birthright of their land. That's the solution, because they have been forced out of their land for many reasons, and one of it's just survival of the fetus. Do you understand? And I want to show you this. Here it is right here. I wrote reasons why and how to solve the problem with the immigrants. Is that social services all need to be assessed, and their banks, because many of these people are getting other monies. Remember, protesters are paid. Somalians, as we see, were paid. Because I asked them to check every state. I said, every state you're going to find much crime. But how do we solve the problem? We solve the problem. These crimes are also in other states and Europe too that need to be corrected. And I told them to go secretly now. Secretly. Because all the ports, the main ports, there's Detroit, in Chicago, New York, and California has a lot. So let's do this. We need to figure this out about how to help them. How to help them right away. Here it is right here. The monies they are getting on social services are respectful and not in protesting and are legal. But even legal ones might have to leave because they're doing fraud. It says they could go do agriculture, small manufacturing, infrastructure projects. Also, when they return to their country, can integrate business for an excellent transition for their country to do small business. Decide what you are going to do about the children's birth of the Islamic regime, and the immigrants and the children should not be automatically citizens. They say there's 2.9 Islamic regime Muslims that to 2.6, 2.9 children to 1.9 children in America. But many are on social services. And America has a different culture. They try to have education first and then have children. The lower socioeconomic ones, the ones that are on social services, do a lot of abortion. So we need to look at this. See, the legacy, many citizens are ethical, realizing they do not want to get social services and they want to work to make a living. They want a career first, then be educated and have children later. This is common now. Many working people and educated people have children later in life. And the ones that are in the lower socioeconomic level have the higher level of abortion. And I talked about that they want us to abort babies and take down our country, America, and the Judeo-Christian nations. And another thing, the retardation of intermarrying of the Islamic regime and retardation, it kills the authentic being in the people of the people. This is a folklore cult of violence, antichrist that believe in Sharia law and constitutional. And Sharia law is completely different from constitutional law in USA and Europe. And as the man told us, you can see it, that the Declaration of Independence is in God. We are in the foundation of God, and in God we serve. That's really what all our Judeo-Christian nations are. People could be killed if they leave the religion. You know, if they leave the Muslim culture, what are you going to do if they want to change and address and leave? That's why you need to go into those communities that are in Detroit, in Chicago, America, across all the areas in Texas, and get FBI and see what they're doing in those communities. They're afraid to walk in because they could be hurting and torturing and killing the people without even knowing. Women are abused, and the way the women are treated as slaves, and they can beat the women and marry young girls 6 to 14 years. It shows that they were marrying kids 6 to 14 years, but then the Epstein files, the youngest one was 14 years. But the difference is that they do pagan rituals with people do pagan with the body parts of the people. That's terrible. And use the blood. It's terrible. But this is indirectly using our blood, our work in America and all the Judeo-Christian nations. It's like they're taking apart our nations because of what they want us to accept the Sharia law and the Quran. And they said they're going to kill us. That is taking apart. That's reflective of sociology. Could be an analogy. Taking a part of a nation and trying to take the organs out of a nation, the beauty heart that we gave them. But this is only the Islamic regime. I heard that in Detroit, Michigan, USA, they have Islamic regime Muslim complex, and the police will not go in to make because it's too dangerous. Therefore, do you see the problem that could occur? Make new laws immediately. They should be new laws in Judeo-Christian nations that do not allow girls to marry 6 years old. And think about that. What do you think? And we need to make new laws. And if you're going to keep all those people and give them social services, you have to demand sanctions and money from their countries and get into their land. And they have to excavate their land and use their land to produce and help the immigrants that came to these Judeo-Christian nations. But they need to have their land, these immigrants. That's their birthright. to solve the problem. But if you don't solve this problem, and the billionaires, because this book is written to like the billionaires, if you don't solve the problem that they could take over your nation later in life, in 10 to 30 years, and you won't even have exchange of business. The monies will be switched over to other nations. Women are abused, and they can marry 4 wives. That's not healthy for regular people that are regular to marry 1 wife at a time. Otherwise, and I had to look up the word, what bigamy meant. Bigamy means that you're married to someone more than one person at a time. There can't be bigamy in regular public schools and even private schools with children. It's not healthy for the children to see. A 6 to 14-year-old is going to be married a 75-year-old man or 50-year-old man with a family next door that 6 to 14-year-olds going to school, and they have a mother and father. That is wrong. These are sociological things that are psychological warfare against the meaning of what it means to be human, what it means to be the authentic meaning of human. When God created men and women, He didn't create Adam and then Eve at 4 years old, 6 years old, and Adam at 59 and Mary. No. And we're Judeo-Christian nations, okay? This is what the criminals are, the elite communists to the geopolitical powers of the Islamic regime. This is an example of a country at war, trying to make the land and the people's legacy. Also, immigrants are used, whether they know it or not. This is what I was trying to say. It's not, I'm on the immigrant side to give them a new life. You don't, the word solidarity in Catholicism, Catholic training, is, and I had to look that up. What does solidarity mean? It means soul, together. See what they need to help them along so they could be the authentic being that they're supposed to be. That's their land. Laws and actions better be done strategically, immediately. Otherwise, there could be continued bloodshed and deformity in Europe for the rest of their life. And they should not protest. They can't say, what are your orders? What are your orders? Those immigrants that do protesting, they're not immigrants. They're military sources of to start war within our own countries. This has to be, and I'm surprised they're not using a military force on these protesters. That's why no people, immigrants that want to be free, okay, and want new life, don't protest with them, or citizens. It's very bad. People, we need to come together, and we can believe it in a miracle. They do not own the breath of life of your ancestors, these lands, Judeo-Christian nations, USA and Europe. When they are praying, they are calling a forceful origin of death covenant, not of God, the Most High, the Father of all humanity of Judeo-Christian nations. And the reason why I call the death covenant, because they want to kill. When God created people, He didn't say, okay, I'm going to create 2 Adams and 2 Eves and kill one and let one live in hell with violence. No, He didn't create to kill. And this is why we need to reconcile. We should be in the eyes of human ideas. We should not be in the eyes of human ideas. Okay? We need to turn back to all things are God when we reconcile in Jesus Christ. When we know Jesus Christ in our Judeo-Christian nations, we have the highest justice. I'm not saying we don't have problems, okay? But we have to assess them and fix them like we're doing. And then it says, all things are of God. We give it to God when we return back to the first commandment of loving God with all the heart and soul. Do you understand? When we reconcile our nations, ourselves to Jesus Christ, it is our Christian nations. We then are reconciled to God, and then we will know how to restore. So if we say, okay, we're supposed to help our enemy, okay, our enemy, we have to say, what solutions can we use to help them so they can be better and give them freedom? Because they're using the immigrants just like they did the Palestinians, the Hamas, as a human shield, just like Iran does for the Iranian people. We have to say to ourselves, and our nation has to keep a foundation of truth and culture. Otherwise, your business, your traditions of life and business, and even harvest and family developments, and personalities and children, personhood of development will change severely. You'll have death of what it means to authentic being in what it means to have your tradition, or even your business, billionaires, especially if the culture that is trying to take over is completely different. We need to reconcile our heart to our nations. So we need to reconcile our nation, not only individual, we need to look at our nation as a whole. And when you do that, you have to look at who is in the nation, what is causing the problem. And what's causing the problem is that we turned away from our traditions. So we need to realize that the Islamic regime is taking hostage of the people. That's what they're doing. Do you understand? Indirectly, they're taking hostage of the people, just like Iran does with those beautiful Iranians that 45 years ago, they were ruled by a king. They weren't violent like that. So they're trying to take hostage to Europe and America and all the places. You can't have that. There has to be new law right away. And it's going to take time. It's been 10 to 20 years it got that way. So it will take time, but you could do it. We have to begin. Think, it is an analogy of a barbaric nation. Hamas killed 1,258 without any reason. And guess what? I missed a part there. My name's Lisa Lucia Arden, and I missed a part there, okay? My name's Lisa. I missed a part showing even a greater argument that's true. Did you know that the Islamic regime under the Hamas, did you know 5,000 people were wounded? 5,000 wounded of non-Palestinians. 5,000 are wounded. And I didn't put that in. And 251 innocent people were in hostage. Hamas was controlling psychological warfare, trying to control the minds and paid strategic protesters, and even had protesters against Israel protecting USA and Europe from Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah, the brotherhood of the extreme Islamic regime. Listen, and listen well, this is the same extreme Islamic regime is trying to do across USA and Europe, trying to take over their Hamas. See, Hamas for 15 years was building war tools underneath the strip there and getting ready to kill. But we know that they've had problems with Israel since 40s or 50s, 1946 or 48 or 1950s, correct? But it's the same mentality because they want to take over the world. The Islamic regime brotherhood, they said that they want to take over. The Islamic regime of a man-made ideas, man-made creation of violence, torture, and death of the personhood. This already has been spoken. We are stopping them now. We're stopping them all now. So we need to come together and protect what truth is, what justice, what freedom is. These immigrants want freedom. We want freedom, our Judeo-Christian nations. But we need to make solutions. We can't stick our heads in sand and look another way and say, you hope it's going to fix, or just let them protest. No. This needs to be fixed. So, my name is Lisa Lucia Arden. I appreciate your time. And we need to bring truth and reconciliation. This is a genogram of what they do to the people over a long period of time.
Or finalized. It's not clear here whether or not this would come in the form of an executive order or some other action. We reached out to the White House, and the spokesperson said that any reporting on policy that hasn't been officially announced is just speculation.
See, this is speculation. You know what? They're looking at it clearly. President Trump and the team were looking at it clearly. President Trump and the team, they are business people. They know how to negotiate. They look at all areas, their variables of the Aristotle categories. Today, you just can't be a good speaker. You have to have solutions. That's why I call myself the first presidential advisor. Those days are gone just with diplomacy. People don't listen to diplomacy. They do things behind your back. Just like China, my friend, I love China. Did you know that China was one of the greatest people in the world in the ancient times? They were in liberty and love in their dynasty. And they don't need to do that. China doesn't need to do that. And look at how beautiful this is, what China wants to do. And they won't accept killing of children. This shows This shows the beautiful China, okay? It shows the beauty of the really core of their life. See, here it is, my friend. Yes, China, God has given you the beautiful face of love. Originally, that's what he gave, but your dynasty had a great legend of truth and freedom. However, your other face is of war. And let's clear that out. Let's clear it out. Let's clear it out. Because we're going to stop the war. We're going to stop the war. They're going to stop the war right away. Because they convicted 3 child sex offenders and executed China Signal Zero Tolerance. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. But unfortunately, they developed leaders that were communists. And we need to stop this with the drugs. And they're trying. President Trump is working on that. But please, my brother, please, however, your other face is war of death. Now stop the war with Putin and Zelensky. You can put agreement on the oil, correct? Correct, my friend? You can put an agreement with the oil that you're going to buy Russia's oil, okay? But you're going to stop the war, correct? That's what I was asking Turkey and Taiwan and all the other nations. And that's why I'm the one that said for Europe to buy less. I'm the one that was my contract to buy less. To buy less and wash the feet of your brother and work with your brother to buy less oil from Russia. And I wanted to show, to try to take the war away, but they still did. When President Trump stopped buying, when EU bought not the oil from Russia, many EU countries, to stop the war. But it hasn't been stopped. We need to wash each other's feet. That's the only way. We need to bow down to each other of love. And I know you could do this. I know you could do this, my friend. Okay? And my friend Putin, I know you could stop the war, Putin. And it says it's impossible to rightly run a government without God in the Bible. And that's what it's in my first top of my new book. That's what it says in my first. Let's see if it's still there. There it is, right. Let's see, it says it right here. No, it says Jehovah Nissa, God is my banner, God fights for me. And Jehovah Rapha, sickness, oppression, and demonic attacks. These people get demonic attacks. They don't know what left or right is, or right or left. Do you know what I mean? But that's the only way we could do is through God. Somewhere around in my book here, it talks about that. There it is. George Washington. It's impossible to rightly govern the world without God in the Bible. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. We can make this work. And the thing is, we have everything at our fingertips to make this work. And look at millions of Muslims in Britain risk after losing their citizenship. And how are you going to solve that problem? You're going to come together with truth and reconciliation, because many have been used for a military tool. And we need to give them the right of their own country, and give them their own country, and work together and have housing built, small businesses, agriculture, and housing in there are 57 countries that are Muslim, and we can come together in truth. The money that they spend on social warfare and other things, and we need to realize this. There's 2.9 children that are born in UK, okay, a year, and 2.6 of regular non-Muslim children. But the problem is we cannot have a nation of Muslim Sharia law and all that they're ruining the British law. We need to come to the truth, and we need to do the flag. We need to do the flag first of Britain and come together in reconciliation and fair business with their countries. I appreciate your time. This is Lisa Luciardi. Thank you so much for your time, and have a beautiful day. Thank you.